What's going on, everyone? We're back to discuss Stargirl Season 3, the second episode, The Suspects, aka Chapter 2, if you're that sort of person. I've decided I'm going to go into these episode review and discussions here in a very bare bones approach. I'm not going to throw up images from the episode. I'm not going to scroll through various videos or anything. I'm just going to sit back and kind of give my thoughts on what happened, as well as some plot points, because I'm just having fun with this show, and that's what I want to do on here, is just kind of get my thoughts out there. I'm not even trying to do them in any specific format. If you're not into spoilers, there will be things that happen in the episode that are spoiled, so bow out now if that's not your thing. Picking up from the first episode of this season, the murder, we discovered who was murdered, and it was the gambler. He died at the end of last episode. At least we're led to believe he died. This is a superhero show. I guess anything is possible. But Cindy was found standing over the body with a smoking gun, claiming she didn't do it. Well, we saw it happen, sort of. We heard a growl in the background. His trailer was smashed. Obviously, that's highly, highly improbable that Cindy had the ability to do that. However, she has never been on the good side except for sort of in a frenemy capacity against Eclipso last season. So she is very, very duplicitous, I suppose. So, you might want to keep an eye on her. I don't personally believe she's the one to blame, but you never know. We're only 2 episodes in. So this episode, being called The Suspects, kind of goes through a litany of who might actually be the ones involved, and it's a lot of the greatest hits of older villains. So we've got ones that we've met before. The Shade. Sylvester is very, very much into believing it's the Shade. He has personal reasons and a personal history to believe that. He didn't live through last season and see the Shade kind of being a helpful fellow. Also, he's dealing with a lot of personal survivor's guilt, it seems, because he is the only one that was allowed to come back to life after the ISA kind of murdered a lot of his friends. Now, we've seen that some of them, like the original Dr. Midnight, Pat Dugan himself, the Thunderbolt Pen, they mentioned Jay Garrick being dead, but I personally don't believe that, so I'm not entirely sure how many people actually died, but if you recall from last season, and we touch on it here, the very reason the original JSA broke up to begin with is because they decided to kill the host of Eclipso, thus kind of becoming the thing that they were fighting against. And it seems that Sylvester is not having the best time with that, especially considering it was his final call to commit this murder against a lot of the JSA's wishes. And now he's allowed to come back to life while a lot of the people against it died fighting the ISA. That's kind of ironic to him. He's feeling some sort of survivor's guilt. So he's got a whole lot going on with him. In this episode in particular, he kind of flashes back and forth between super positive, super negative. I don't know if one of these personalities is supposed to be a facade or a put on, or if he's dealing with some sort of battling bipolar issue, or hell, maybe there's 2 entities warring in its head. One of them's the actual Sylvester, one of them's something else from beyond. I don't know. My personal theory is kind of that, he claims the cosmic staff brought him back to life when it made that connection with Courtney. That very well may be true, or at least partially true. I don't think it's just for the heck of it. I don't think it brought him back to life as a quirk of fate because he still had a spark inside or something. I think the only reason he has been brought back to life is because there's some sort of grander scale that he needs to tip one way or the other. He needs to impart his wisdom, his training, the benefit of all of his experience to Courtney so that she can truly become the Stargirl she needs to be. She needs to kind of get over this second rate in the shadow of a greater man type of thing. And she needs to get over the fact that she was for a long time believing Sylvester to be her father. Both of these things she needs to work past to get past these mental blocks within her own mind and her own power set to move on and become the head of the new JSA that she seems to be destined to become. Because right now she's making a lot of mistakes, poor decisions. And I mean, granted, she's only in high school, but still, she needs to develop a lot. And I think he is the key to that. As much as Pat can do for her, Pat's never going to be able to do what I think Sylvester can. So that is probably his main reason in coming back. He needs to kind of balance the scales. He needs to atone for what he did during his time as Starman, as well as get over his own feelings, possibly heal that relationship he had with Pat, and hell, maybe he's even going to help take down the bad guy and officially put himself to rest and be that kind of light to lead the old JSA into the new JSA officially. And I think that would be a good place for the end of season 3 to end. Let's get back to the episode proper. So Sylvester thinks it might be the Shade. That seems a bit wishy-washy. We do see that the Shade went back to the trailer before the murder, but also seems a little outside his power set. And he also seems to be having a problem himself right now. His powers don't seem to be fully mended, and he's got some weird green energy going on. Not sure what that's about. Perhaps it has to do with the fact that his membrane to the Shadowlands was breached when they went in to rescue Hourman. Perhaps it has something to do with maybe he's got some of... sorry, Dr. Midnight. Perhaps it has something to do with the fact that he has some of the sand or whatever material from Hourman's glass caught within his matrix of darkness, whatever you call it. I don't know, I'm just throwing some stuff out there, but there's definitely something going on with him, and he decides at the end of the episode to leave Blue Valley for a while. Now we've also got the Crocs. They're not really superpowered beings. They've got sports equipment, they've got weapons, they've got highly trained martial arts and things of that nature, but they're not really your overpowered, superpowered individuals. So I also don't believe they have the capability to smash the trailer and do the sort of damage that we saw happen to kill the gambler in the first place. However, they are masters of bladed weapons. So these are the main characters in town that we've seen. Now, at the end of last season, we saw that there's this mysterious organization collecting powered children. There was a skull-faced guy. His name was Mr. Bones, I believe, something like that. So is this in relation to that group of people? I'm not sure. The end of the episode leads us to believe there's another mysterious thing going on with the Crocs, because right at the end, Tigress, I believe, says, "We can't hide this forever. They're going to find out eventually." Don't think that has to do with the murder of the gambler. My personal theory on this is, and again, not going on very much, they were the ones responsible for hiring the gang of the gambler. So if you remember from last episode, they thought the gambler might be up to some bad news shenanigans because his old gang was in town. This old gang is the one that Artemis showed up to fight, defeat, and kind of, try to prove herself to the new Justice Society. My theory on this is that the gang was hired by the Crocs, her parents, for Artemis to fight for the sole purpose of basically giving Artemis an audition for the Justice Society. I don't think there's anything more duplicitous going on by the Crocs than this, at least as of the current moment. I think they're obviously a bit mentally out there as far as characters go, but I don't think they're up to any world-ending, world-shattering shenanigans. Now, are there other suspects that we haven't really touched on in the show? Yes. We've got Icicle Jr. developing his powers and his kind of super creepy grandparents that also have some sort of ice powers, at least one of them does. They are the type of people that could conceivably have a higher level of power or connections because they were part of this new world order they were building. However, they have yet to be established as villains in the show proper. I mean, they're kind of been in the background. Maybe we'll find out more about them. I personally don't think they're the ones behind it. What about other members of the ISA? Dragon King? Maybe he's back alive. Maybe he had some sort of backup plan where if his body died, his consciousness was transferred into a backup body, a more lizard-like, a more reptilian, a more actually dragon-like body. If that's the case, that could explain the giant roar and the huge battering damage that we saw. Solomon Grundy was mentioned as a possibility. However, he's currently dead, and Hourman is unable to resurrect him. My personal thoughts on this are whatever extraordinary power is bringing Starman back to life is the same extraordinary power that would normally be used to reanimate Solomon Grundy, the life force, the green, whatever you want to call it. It's currently all being taken up by Starman, therefore Solomon Grundy cannot be resurrected because it's currently in use. That's my hunch on this. No idea if I'm off base or not. It's just a wild comic book type of speculation, and I think that could be kind of cool if something similar is going on. Brainwave kind of is supposed to be dead. We did see him last episode in Wildcat's mind and Yolanda's mind. That was supposedly just a trick by Eclipso to kind of get Yolanda to doubt herself and freak out. Could there be more to it? Could Brainwave be existing on some sort of ethereal psychic plane and he's not really gone? He may have the ability to inhabit another being. Maybe he was able to briefly take over for Solomon Grundy, inhabit his body, get up, murder the gambler, somehow get out of Dodge and rebury himself. None of these are really sounding like the 100% answer right now, but I want to throw as many speculations out there as I can because we're so early on in the season and things could be revealed any time of day, any time of night. Could be someone we haven't met yet. What's going on with Jenny, the Green Lantern there? She was at the end of last season, but by the time we pick up at the beginning of this season, she had left. I know she was going to search for her brother. Her brother was conceivably being held by this evil cabal led by Dr. Demon, Mr. Bones guy there. Could she have possibly been recruited and brainwashed and turned into a counter agent? Also just throwing that out there. Do we have any other suspects that we have seen in the actual show itself? I guess you could say it's Starman. He's obviously been acting shady. Something's not quite right with him. We don't know how and why he came back to life. Maybe it's not even him. Could it be another Eclipso trick? I highly doubt that they would bring that back into play, but he could be under the control of another being. He could not even be himself. He could be a artificial construct of some sort. There are a lot of possible suspects right now, and that's not even bringing into the equation some people from our own side. Our man, he could theoretically have that power. Maybe he lost some of his grains of sand and someone else picked them up and got that, extra 7 minutes of strength or something. Maybe it could be the original Hour Man. No one's off the table as being officially dead, I don't think. And they all kind of have a score to settle with the gambler. So who knows? I also think the gambler's daughter is caught up in this whole Mr. Bones situation, so that may be the crux of it too. The gambler was getting too close to the trail and they needed to silence him. It has nothing to do with our characters. It could just be this wild goose chase that will end our characters finding the situation that Mr. Bones and his whole cabal didn't even want them involved in to begin with. He could be the architect of his own downfall. And the last thing I want to mention is if we track down the laptop, we find the murderer. Well, right at the end of the episode, Cindy happens to have the laptop. She's also taking some sort of potion or concoction that conceivably was developed by her father, the Dragon King. However, maybe she was concocting it herself. I think we're led to believe, there's more to Cindy than meets the eye. Maybe she is the actual culprit. But no, I'm not falling for that. I'm not buying that. Cindy will not be the one responsible, at least as far as I can tell. It's been a grand ride so far, bit of a slow burn as far as action goes. This is a more cerebral plotting, getting to know characters and placing characters in different positions. I'm liking it. It's probably not going to be to everyone's taste. Vastly different from the prior 2 seasons, so I'm interested to see what people are thinking. Until next time, keep on shining.